Chapter 17. He's so fucking hot. If you are enjoying these audio reads, please like and subscribe to the channel and most importantly share with other fans of the BL community. With a group of friends surrounding him, Sheng Shaoyou stepped off a karting track. He was dressed in a red and white racing suit, a fiery red helmet on his head, his broad shoulders and narrow waist making his tall frame even more striking. Hua Yong stood outside the track, staring at him intently. Among the three players who would play in the next round, their host, Li Baiqiao, had the worst driving skills and could only handle the most basic entertainment model. The other quiet player, Beta. Among them chose the 250cc, while Sheng Shaoyou was the only one who got into the deep blue four-stroke at the back of the lineup. Li Baiqiao, despite his terrible skills, had a cocky attitude. He called out to Sheng Shaoyou, who was at the back of the team, showing off, "Xiaoyu, that four-stroke was specially prepared for you by this lousy, and it's still virgin. Ride it well, don't lay it down. After you've had your fun, I'll train for a couple of days and give it a go myself. Maybe I'll even soak up some of young Master Sheng's divine aura while I'm at it." Sheng Shaoyou sensed the innuendo in Li Baiqiao's words and immediately his mood soured. But since the other party hadn't outright said anything inappropriate, he didn't want to lose his temper just yet. Instead, he spat coldly, "With your 3 tricks, you think you can handle a four-stroke? Your dad makes so much money, and you still expect to leech off him for life? Just stay put in the kiddie cars with the 100cc. Li Baiqiao had been making suggestive remarks about Hua Yong in a sarcastic manner, and Sheng Shaoyou, holding back his anger, slammed down on the accelerator. The engine roared fiercely, and by the end of the first lap, he had surprisingly tied his personal best record, finishing in 33 seconds. Li Baiqiao, on the other hand, wasn't so lucky. In the bar laps of his round, he crashed twice and ended up stuck against the crash barrier, pathetically waiting for the rescue team. Thanks to his remarkable skills, he managed an impressive average lap time of 1 minute and 42 seconds. After several rounds, everyone was exhausted. It was only when Sheng Shaoyou got out of the car and removed his helmet that Hua Yong noticed that Alpha named Cheng had been standing beside him the entire time. Handing a sports drink to his beloved Alpha, Hua Yong turned his head and asked the A-level Alpha, who had been staring at him intently, "Mr. Cheng, aren't you going to ride your bike? Wouldn't it be boring just standing here?" Cheng replied, "Not at all. I'm fine just standing here, watching Brother Sheng and the others. It's pretty nice." "Really?" "Yeah," Cheng said. "Besides, riding a motorcycle alone isn't much fun. Brother Sheng doesn't like riding motorcycles. He thinks they're too dangerous." "Are riding motorcycles really that dangerous?" Hua Yong tilted his head, looking curious. "Don't they have protective gear?" "Exactly." Cheng seemed to have found the kindred spirit. Excited, he instinctively reached out, wanting to take Hua Yong's hand, but Hua Yong suddenly stepped back. Realizing his mistake, Cheng quickly withdrew and patted Hua Yong's shoulder instead. "I always say the same thing. The racetrack is actually very safe, much safer than riding on road. Yong, if you're interested, I can teach you." Hua Yong nodded at him. "Thank you, Mr. Cheng." As they spoke, a sudden weight pressed onto Hua Yong's shoulder. He turned his head and found Sheng Shaoyou draping himself over him, nearly hanging onto him, and asked sourly, "What are you two talking about? Having so much fun?" Even saying thanks now, Hua Yong immediately smiled at him. "Mr. Cheng said he'd teach me how to ride a track motorcycle." Sheng Shaoyou was very close, but Hua Yong didn't shy away in front of everyone. Instead, he gently leaned his fair forehead against Sheng Shaoyou's, his voice soft as he praised, "Mr. Sheng, you looked so handsome just now when you were driving the go-kart." "Really?" The gloom on Sheng Shaoyou's face vanished instantly. He reached out and playfully scratched Hua Yong's stray nose lightly. "You must have been sneaking candy behind my back. How did your mouth get so sweet? I'm just telling the truth." Watching the two of them flirt, Cheng felt a bitter jealousy welling up inside him. The itch feeling that he had just managed to suppress now flared up again. Turning his head, he glanced at Li Baiqiao, who had always been obsessed with all kinds of beauties, and sure enough, he saw that Li Baiqiao was also staring at them, just as dumbstruck as he was. Where on earth did Sheng Shaoyou find this stunningly beautiful treasure? The scent of orchids alone was enough to make hearts race. When he had a cold expression, he exuded an air of abstinence, but when he smiled, he was both pure and alluring, without the slightest trace of worldliness. Sheng Shaoyou and Li Baiqia exchanged a glance, one that practically screamed, "Oh my God, I'm drooling." But due to Sheng Shaoyou's unprecedented protectiveness over the food, they had no choice but to swallow their desires. Forget it, forget it. A friend's wife is off limits. This orchid really had some tricks up his sleeve. He had managed to make Sheng Shaoyou, who never cared if others pick up his leftovers to play with, blatantly jealous for the first time. Could it be that this soul-stirring little beauty wasn't just an ordinary escort, but actually a little sister-in-law? Sheng Shaoyou had been passionate about road motorcycles for years, but his obsession with track bikes had only developed in the past years. Still, his skills were solid, and he could never resist showing off when given the chance. Seeing Hua Yong's interest, he enthusiastically encouraged him to give it a try. Hua Yong took on Sheng Shaoyou, who had just come off the track, and brought up his desire to try riding motorcycle. At first, Sheng Shaoyou rejected the idea outright. But faced with Hua Yong's expectant gaze, he eventually relented, though not before confirming the safety precautions with the instructor multiple times. Hua Yong moved quickly. In no time, he had changed into a riding suit and returned, leaving even Sheng Shaoyou, who had grown accustomed to looking at him, stunned. The air seemed to freeze. Everyone held their breath, captivated by the sight before them. That little orchid was clad in a black racing suit. The special protective design made the thick fabric cling to his body, accentuating the tight curve of his waist, the plump and perky buttocks, and the straight, slender lines of his long legs. In his arms, he held a sleek, jet black helmet. Soft, deep chestnut-colored hair fell slightly over his forehead. Dressed like this, even the purest of eyes seemed to carry invisible hooks, drawing out the primal desire in every alpha to claim him, to possess him completely. However, in his heart, in his gaze, there was only Sheng Shaoyou. Circling his arms around the helmet, he gave Sheng Shaoyou a warm smile, one meant solely for him, and softly said, "Mr. Sheng, I'm ready." Once again, Sheng Shaoyou suspected that his run might not have actually ended yet. Otherwise, why would he have such a maddening thought? He wanted to pin this orchid down by his slender wrists and ankles, kiss his lips, hold his narrow waist, and delve into that untouched, secret garden of his that had never been entered by anyone before. Sheng Shaoyou pressed his fingers against his faintly throbbing temples, thinking to himself, he never should have agreed to let Hua Yong ride the motorcycle, and he never should have allowed him to dress like that and strut around under everyone's watchful eyes, because he's so fucking hot. The throttle twisted to its limit, and the engine roared with an ear-splitting sound that tore through the air. A silver-gray heavy-duty track motorcycle streaked across the black and gray asphalt, cutting a dazzling arc of lightning-bright motion. After just 2 laps of warming up the tires, Sheng Shaoyou, who prided himself on being a motorcycle racing enthusiast, never caught up to that little orchid again. That orchid was probably a reincarnated racing god. His seemingly fragile wrists controlled the handlebars with an unshakable grip, and as he leaned forward, he resembled a black panther in the hunting phase, possessing racing sense no less refined than that of a professional rider. His sense of timing, for braking, for entering turns, was impeccable, and his throttle control during lenience left even the instructor who had guided him around the track gaping in stunned disbelief. Li Baiqia stood beside Sheng Shaoyou in the viewing area. Once again, utterly blinded by this peerless and rare orchid, he couldn't resist nudging Sheng Shaoyou with his elbow and asking, "Where the hell did you pluck this flower from? Does he have any siblings? Even distant cousins will do. I fucking need to try my luck too." Sheng Shaoyou smiled with satisfaction. He has a younger sister, but she's still quite young. It's fine, even if she's young. I don't mind waiting. Even if she's still in the womb, as long as she's got half her brother's charm, I'll make sure I live long enough until the day it's legal to mark her. Sheng Shaoyou sighed in sympathy. Then I'm afraid you won't be able to wait for that. His sister is an alpha. Li Baiqiao instantly deflated, wilting like a frostbitten eggplant. Sheng Shaoyou, every first day of a new year, I always rush to the temple at dawn to burn the first incense. I bow and pray way more devoutly than you. Why is heaven so unfair to me? How come you get all the good stuff first? Sheng Shaoyou, have you considered that maybe you've done too many unscrupulous deeds, and your merits don't outweigh your faults? Pa. Li Baiqia straightened up in defiance. What unscrupulous deeds have I done? But then, He caught sight of Hua Yong walking off the track, wiping sweat from his face, yet still looking enchantingly beautiful. And just like that, he deflated all over again. Slumping dejectedly, he muttered, "I go to Tiandihui way more often than you do. Everyone says the finest, freshest catches in all of Jianghu are there. So how the hell have I never come across a top-tier dish like this? Fucking hell, that brash Sheng Shaoyou must not have enough pull. No way, next time, I have to grill him and make him find me someone just as hot as this orchid, no exceptions." Sheng Shaoyou was a shareholder of Tiandihui and had been Li Baiqiao's childhood friend since they were in open crotch pants. He ran several high-end entertainment clubs and leisure centers in Jianghu City. Though his wealth couldn't compare to the likes of Sheng Shaoyou, his true advantage lay in his extensive connections. He had friends from all walks of life, from the elite to the underworld. It was also Sheng Shaoyou who had initially introduced Sheng Shaoyou to Sheng Wenlang. Thinking of this, Sheng Shaoyou chuckled. "Speaking of which, I got to know Hua Yong through Yushan." "What?" Li Baiqiao practically jumped up upon hearing this, flailing in outrage. "That stinky brash Sheng Yushan. I treated him like my best brother, and yet he found something this good and gave it to you instead of me? What kind of brotherhood is that?" "What do you mean, something this good?" Sheng Shaoyou's tolerance for Li Baiqiao never lasted more than 7 minutes. His face darkened as he snapped, "Li Baiqiao, can you talk like a fucking human? If not, then shut the hell up." Li Baiqiao knew Sheng Shaoyou was hard to please, and he also realized that the orchid beauty was temporarily off limits. After all, the man was currently sitting atop young Master Sheng's heart. But no flower blooms forever, and he and Cheng Shi were both eagerly waiting for the day Sheng Shaoyou got tired of playing with him, so they could swoop in and pick up the second-hand business. However, seeing that Sheng Shaoyou was genuinely displeased this time, Li Baiqiao didn't dare keep running his mouth. He immediately conceded, making motion of zipping his lips. All right, I'll watch my words, definitely watch my words. Go on, tell me, how exactly did Yushan introduce you to such a peerless little white orchid?" "Hua Yong is Sheng Wenlang's secretary." "Ah? Sheng Wenlang? Yushan introduced me to Sheng Wenlang in the first place. Although Sheng Fang and HS couldn't manage to collaborate successfully." Sheng Shaoyou spoke as he gazed at Hua Yong, who was currently discussing cornering techniques with the instructor. His scorching eyes stayed locked onto the Omega's softly quanted side profile. Then, he added casually, "But I managed to snatch Hua Yong from Sheng Wenlang, so it's not exactly a loss." Fuck. Li Baiqiao couldn't hold back a curse. An Omega this stunningly beautiful, and Sheng Wenlang, who had him right under his nose, managed to not mark him? Is that fucking guy even an alpha? Sheng Shaoyou said, "Sheng Wenlang hates Omegas. If he hates Omegas, then why is he keeping Hua Yong around him? He's the only Omega on his staff." Fuck. Doesn't that mean my little sister-in-law is in danger? Li Baiqiao blurted out without thinking. Sheng Shaoyou cast him a calm glance but didn't correct him. He simply said, "But Hua Yong only likes me." Li Baiqiao immediately felt a sharp sting in his teeth, grimacing as he said, "Ah, yeah, we all know how damn charming you are, young Master Sheng. He likes you. Fine. But to say only likes you? Come on, you're just making me sick with jealousy with the sweetness of yours. Fuck, if I'd known this would happen, I wouldn't have called you out today. I've had a sugar overdose. I swear I'm getting cavities from all the sweetness." Despite his grumbling, Li Baiqiao couldn't help but think in his heart, an Omega this white, fresh and delicate, without a permanent mark, was never a sure thing. He might only like you today, but tomorrow who's to say he won't only like me? However, of course, Li Baiqiao could only think about it. He didn't dare say this out loud, fearing that if he did, he would surely get beaten up by Sheng Shaoyou. Chapter 18. Following Mr. Sheng, it's easier to learn the bad things. Thanks to the favorable news, Shengfang Biotech's stock price finally stopped its downward spiral, no longer plummeting like it had after the release of the first quarter financial report. However, the process of research on the application of gene scissors remains stagnant, trudging forward with great difficulty. By late May, Rumors suddenly spread throughout the industry that HS Group had launched an unprecedented internal rectification, conducting a thorough investigation into corruption issues within the company. The primary targets of this scrutiny were the researchers within HS research department. Yet, HS secrecy measures were impeccable. Despite the rampant speculation about this major corruption scandal for over half a month, no one could say for sure which scientists were implicated. As soon as Sheng Shaoyou caught wind of the situation, he immediately ordered Chen Pingming to quickly compile a list of corrupt research corps personnel who were about to be purged by HS Group. In the past, he had despised corrupt and parasitic leeches the most. But if these leeches happened to be from HS Research Department, then the situation would become entirely different. They had to take advantage of this massive reshuffling at HS and quickly throw a lifeline to these panic-stricken scientific and technological talents. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. At a time when HS is in its most turbulent state, if they didn't seize the chance to poach Sheng Wenlang now, then when? Chen Pingming, who had always been the most capable subordinate, immediately nodded in agreement. As he was leaving the office, Sheng Shaoyou called him back and instructed, "Secretary Chen, just go all out on this task. There is no need to report back until you have results. I only care about the outcome, not the process, no matter what price we'll have to pay." Looking at his young superior's cold and resolute expression, Chen Pingming nodded solemnly. "Yes, President Sheng." In the following week, Chen Pingming was so busy that his feet barely touched the ground. Compared to Shengfang Biotech, which had dominated Jianghu for over a decade, HS was much younger. Unlike Shengfang, which had a rigid hierarchy and strict organizational structure, HS internal teams value efficiency above all else. Research groups with fewer than 50 members often adopted a flat management system. As a result, not only was the work environment more relaxed, but the company's internal cohesion and sense of unity were also remarkably strong. Chen Pingming had put in considerable effort but had only managed to bribe a few peripheral figures, still failing to obtain any valuable information. Just as he was growing anxious and getting angry, he suddenly recalled something from that morning's meeting, right after it ended. He had overheard a phone call between Sheng Shaoyou and Hua Yong in the office. Hua Yong seemed to have just finished a meeting with Sheng Wenlang as well. Over the phone, he softly asked Sheng Shaoyou what he wanted to eat that evening. Sheng Shaoyou didn't answer directly. Instead, he chuckled and asked in return, "Didn't you say you've been working overtime for several days? How come you have time to cook today?" Hua Yong gently explained that he was getting off work early that day. The entire company had a team-building event after 2:30 p.m., so he had used the excuse of feeling unwell to slip away and head home first. Sheng Shaoyou let out another amused laugh. "Since when did you become so disobedient? You've even learned to lie now?" "It's Mr. Sheng who led me astray," Hua Yong replied. Sheng Shaoyou's smile widened. "I led you astray? Why not say it's your own fault for choosing the wrong person to learn from? It's really hard to learn the good things," Hua Yong murmured over the phone, his voice carrying a hint of coyness. He even lowered his tone, making the last syllable soft and lingering as he said, "Following Mr. Sheng, it's easier to learn the bad things." As Chen Pingming left the office, an absurd yet daring idea suddenly crossed his mind. That day, Hua Yong left work early. Sheng Shaoyou never did tell him what he wanted to eat, only instructing him not to cook and saying he'd take him out for dinner later. At 下午3点17分, Hua Yong had just arrived home. He originally planned to pick up the book he hadn't finished reading yesterday, but just as he reached the bookshelf, the doorbell rang. He had no choice but to turn around and open the door. Standing outside the door was an unexpected visitor for Hua Yong. Chen Pingming. Secretary Chen greeted him politely at the door and said, "President Sheng knew you were getting off work early today and was worried you might be bored alone at home, so he specifically asked me to bring you some books." "Oh," Hua Yong responded. "Then thank you, Secretary Chen." Chen Pingming changed into indoor slippers and stepped inside, finding the apartment far tidier than he had imagined. Sheng Shaoyou had been born with a diamond spoon in his mouth. Expecting him to do housework was obviously unrealistic. However, previously, Sheng Shaoyou and Hua Yong had agreed that Hua Yong would cover his rent by doing chores. If they were to hire a housekeeper now, it might only make this sensitive and proud orchid overthink things, pushing him to leave sooner. Because of this, Sheng Shaoyou had specifically instructed that no servants were to set foot in this apartment. Yet, as Chen Pingming scanned the spotless windows and gleaming kitchen counters, He couldn't help but feel astonished. Could it be that this delicate orchid, who could have lived a life of luxury relying solely on his stunning looks, was actually skilled in domestic affairs as well? Such radiance, so refined and graceful, truly a perfect partner for home and family. Compared to the previous Omegaverse partners who had nothing but a pretty face and coquettish demeanor, his boss had truly found a gem this time. Secretary Chen, would you like tea or coffee? Just as Chen Pingming had learned from his prior investigations, Hua Yong's manners were exceptionally good. His attitude toward Chen Pingming was much the same as it was toward Sheng Shaoyou. Aside from the absence of any coquettishness, he showed him just as much respect. This alone set him worlds apart from those other Omegas who swiped Sheng Shaoyou's supplementary cards for lavish shopping sprees, spoke to him in honey tones, but treated Chen Pingming with hearty commands. Chen Pingming couldn't help but develop a bit of admiration for Hua Yong. The customized steelbook pen listening device in his pocket suddenly felt uncomfortably stiff, pressing against him with a dull ache. Since Chen Pingming had said the guest should follow the host's wishes, Hua Yong brewed him a cup of Darjeeling black tea, serving it in a delicate muslin tea set. The tea was a vivid orange red, clear and bright. As Hua Yong handed him the fine-bone china cup, his nearly translucent fingers were almost the same color as the porcelain itself, so beautiful that even Chen Pingming couldn't help but take a few more extra glances. Secretary Chen, what books did you bring? After setting down his teacup, the breathtaking Omega, who also had a gentle and polite disposition, in front of him asked curiously. Chen Pingming then pulled out the books he had hastily prepared and handed them over. Hua Yong was pleasantly surprised. Ah, this, Renjian Xihua, is actually the book I plan to buy this weekend. Noticing that Chen Pingming was staring at him, the Omega's expression shifted from surprise to slight shyness. I loved this book back in high school and have always wanted to read it again, but I just haven't had the time. Chen Pingming politely replied, President Sheng is really in sync with you. The Omega's face instantly flushed as he asked, Secretary Chen, do you really think so? Yes. Chen Pingming forced himself to make up a story. This was the first book on list President Sheng gave me. Did you mention it to him? No. Oh, then it really must be telepathy. Remembering how relaxed and joyful Sheng Shaoyou had sounded when answering Hua Yong's call, Chen Pingming naturally added, It's clear that President Sheng truly likes you. Mr. Sheng likes me. Hua Yong looked very happy, his eyes curving into a bright smile. Thank you for saying that. Oh, right, I baked some cookies. Would you like to try them? Chen Pingming had been fretting over how to get a moment alone. Seizing the opportunity, he immediately nodded. Really? Now that you mention it, I do feel a little hungry. Mr. Hua, I'll have to trouble you. It's no trouble at all. Hua Yong stood up and walked toward the kitchen. I made 2 flavors. Would you like to try both? Chen Pingming thanked him again politely. Once he confirmed that Hua Yong had gone into the kitchen, he stood up from the sofa, walked over to the entrance, and found Hua Yong's briefcase hanging on the entryway rack. He retrieved the HS Group-branded pen from inside and replaced it with the identical-looking pen that was embedded with a listening device he had brought. After completing the suite, Chen Pingming exhaled slightly in relief. But before he could fully relax, Hua Yong's voice suddenly rang out, much closer than expected, Secretary Chen. Chen Pingming was startled, cold sweat breaking out on his back. His mind raced, frantically searching for an excuse that could fool this currently well-favored Omega. This orchid was truly extraordinary. Not only was it on the verge of breaking Sheng Shaoyou's month record for longest relationship, but from Chen Pingming's perspective, Sheng Shaoyou's initial enthusiasm over this dating partner of his showed no signs of waning. Chen Pingming's brain was running at full speed, his temples burning as if they were about to catch fire. Yet, to his surprise, this orchid was so pure-hearted that not only did he show no suspicion, but he even leaned in cautiously to ask, Are you really curious about our company's pen design? Doesn't your company distribute uniform pens? After speaking, he even kindly offered, If Secretary Chen likes this pen, I can give it to you. Ah, no. Chen Pingming had just gone through all that trouble to put the device into Hua Yong's bag. How could he let him take it back so easily? He quickly explained, Sorry, I thought this was President Sheng's bag and wanted to help him refill his business cards. He even showed slightly troubled expression. Last time at a business event, President Sheng found his card holder empty, and I got quite the scolding. Hua Yong gave him a comforting smile. Mr. Sheng is rather fierce. His temper isn't great. Thank you for your hard work in taking care of him. Chen Pinming's conscience suddenly ached. But Hua Yong was completely unaware of Chen Pinming's suffering from his guilty conscience. After offering a few words of comfort, he even shared some valuable insights he had gathered on how to be a good secretary. As it neared Sheng Shaoyou's return time, Chen Pinming found a random excuse to take his leave. Clutching his aching conscience, he stepped out of Hua Yong's apartment, once again marveling at how Sheng Shaoyou had truly picked a kind and innocent rare little white orchid this time. Sheng Shaoyou knew that Chen Pinming had delivered some books to Hua Yong in the afternoon, but he didn't expect Hua Yong to like him so much. As soon as he arrived home, the little orchid pounced on him, wrapping his arms around his neck and rewarding him with 2 kisses. Sheng Shaoyou was immediately overjoyed. Holding the back of Hua Yong's neck, he tried to pull him in for a deeper kiss, but the little orchid laughed and dodged, raising the book in his hand. Secretary Chen said these books were specially picked out by Mr. Sheng for me, but how did Mr. Sheng know this was the one I wanted most? Sheng Shaoyou glanced at the book in Hua Yong's hand, then at his bright and radiant smile. He thought to himself, Chen Pinming really knew how to get things done. He wrapped his arms around Hua Yong's waist, leaning his head down with ill intent as he inhaled his scent. Lowering his voice, he murmured, I guessed. But I'd rather sooner be inside you. Hua Yong's ears instantly turned red. He lowered his head, not daring to meet his gaze. After teasing him, Sheng Shaoyou finally chuckled and finished his sentence. He reached out and gently pressed his lower abdomen. Be inside you and become the round worm in your stomach, then I won't have to rely on guessing anymore in the future. The person in his arms had always been thin-skinned. A blush spread from the tips of his ears down to his neck. Sheng Shaoyou hugged him tightly, sniffing his neck. Hua Yong shivered sensitively but ultimately couldn't bear to push him away, allowing Sheng Shaoyou to push him all the way onto the sofa. Only when this little orchid lay on his back did Sheng Shaoyou truly notice the curve of his jawline was actually smooth yet sharp. His features were excessively exquisite, with the abundance of sharp angles dominating his face. If not for those moist, gentle eyes to soften the intensity, Hua Yong's looks would have been strikingly aggressive. But when he gazed at Sheng Shaoyou, his eyes were impossibly tender, making Sheng Shaoyou feel as though he possessed an overwhelming amount of Hua Yong's love, so much that no matter how recklessly he squandered it, it would never run out. On the sofa, under that gentle gaze, Sheng Shaoyou lowered his head and, as if enchanted, kissed a pair of lips before him that carried the fragrance of orchid. Hua Yong obediently held on to him, his hands lightly trailing up his back as he shyly parted his lips to return the kiss. Although this orchid didn't often say the words I like you, Sheng Shaoyou was certain Hua Yong truly, deeply liked him.